All right, after a week off to recoup and recover, we are back with Between the Horns, presented by your Southern California Toyota dealers. I'm JB Long with the two best sleepers I know, DeMarco Farr and Maurice Jones-Drew.
No, that's him.
He set a world record the last time we were all together. Good to see you both.
How did you sleep that long coming from Detroit? That's ridiculous. That's not fair.
Now, you know what? First of all, I have to thank boss man, Jory Hirsch, who had me. I caught a flight earlier that morning to get to Detroit because I worked that night, which worked out. And I didn't sleep on that flight. I was so excited about getting to the game. Have a great game. Atmosphere is insane. And then on the way back, man, it was just like, that was up for almost like 24 hours.
We got stuck in Detroit. How long were we on the ground there?
Over 5 hours.
5 hours. And you didn't move a muscle.
To be honest, I thought we were in the air. I thought we were in the air. Like when we landed, I was like, why is it light outside? What's going on?
Him. Like, what are you doing? He missed the whole thing. Wow.
And you just laughed at me like, I was like, hey.
You don't know how much that upset everyone around you.
I don't know how people can't sleep. Like I just go to sleep.
It was awesome though.
I was thinking about two people. One was Tyler Higbee and how bad I felt that he's sitting there with a done knee in that cramped plane just trying to get home.
Yep.
And the other was this guy and how angry and jealous I was that he was a couple of rows ahead of me, just dead to the world, recharging his battery.
On the window.
While the rest of us
Nice tucked in. Unbelievable.
On that bitter pill.
Wow. That Higbee thing, it did kind of bother me. And like you said, am I over it, rested, and recouped? I guess I am, except for him. Yeah, that whole thing out of Detroit and how that went down and trying to swallow all that. I mean, I think the one thing that keeps coming back is that Tyler Higbee injury. And then talking about this, I'm like, yeah, he's up in the front trying to figure out how to get comfortable, and you're over there just sleep.
All right.
For the rest of the team, you should stay up, Maurice.
Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that thought, because I'll have a whole section of this show that's basically what would you like to get off your chest as we wrap up 2023. And those who have worked with me know that I am notorious for making more work for them than is necessary. I've got all these harebrained ideas. And so when we were called back into studio for this year-end version of Between the Horns, I said, well, what if we did two shows? And we'll do one on 23, and then we'll set the table for 24.
I love it.
And no one except for the three of us thought that was a good idea because it's going to mean more work behind the scenes.
Is that why they're all frowning? Is that why they're all mad when we walked
sleeping
in?
On the plane,
it was JB.
So point being, we'll do this show, and we'll get to some year-end awards, and then you'll see us again about a week from now wearing the same clothes and the same disposition, and that's when we will really turn the page to 2024, and MJD will give us his full 7-round mock draft, including what the Rams are going to do at 19 overall.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Wow.
We'll give you some time to think about that.
All right.
In the meantime, let's start with the biggest of pictures. How will you remember 2023?
Wow. The word miracle keeps coming up, but that doesn't cover it. Hell of a coaching job. Just from the start of and from training camp and going back to minicamp, what most people thought of the Rams and what they thought this season was going to be. They brought up the T word, I don't know how many times, tanking for a certain guy. And that bothers you, right? I mean, because you're discounting the guys you have on this football team, including Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald. So just going from training camp on and how they finished in the postseason, miracle keeps coming to mind, but I'll just land on what a hell of a coaching job this was by Sean McVay and his staff.
Yeah, I would say good enough. And what I mean by that is two things. One, early in training camp, I was interviewing Sean McVay on our training camp special at NFL Network, and Andrew Siciliano brought up 6.5 wins. And the smirk that he had on his face, he was like, we'll see, you know. Obviously, you dominated that with getting 10, but also good enough being most likely the two teams that are going to go to the Super Bowl will be the Niners and the Ravens. You beat one in Week 18 with all backups, and you took one down to the wire at their home game and lost on a punt return touchdown. So you were good enough to win it this year, I believe, right? And really, if you go back to Detroit, you're a couple plays away from winning that game as well. So regardless of the draft and all the different things, the Rams were good enough to, and I feel like they always will be good enough with Sean McVay, Stafford, AD, Kupp, and then all those rookies that made big plays, good enough to go out and play and compete at all times.
I think I'm somewhere in between the two of you. I'm trying my best to be thankful, to take an approach of gratitude. We're 8 days removed and I want to get there. But honestly, what it feels like is the one that got away.
This year or the game?
Yeah, I think 2023 is like that bad breakup. It was not mutual. I love that season.
Yeah, yeah.
And I need a couple of wingmen to get me back on the saddle and to introduce me to the next season, because I'm having a hard time letting this one go.
You know, like when you look at what happened this weekend, tell me what team the Rams couldn't have hung with or beat in divisional round weekend.
No, I mean
exactly.
I'm
and that's not home team hyperbole. I mean, that's just the God's honest truth. Like you said, hung with Baltimore. I just saw a tweet the other day. Name one quarterback that had success against Baltimore's defense. I'm like, I can. Yeah. We
Tell
all
me you
saw
weren't
that.
sitting there with Jordan Love in the driver's seat at San Francisco, being like, "Oh man, we were kind of joking about the 6-7 SoFi NFC Championship game."
Yeah,
it was a very real possibility in retrospect.
No doubt.
And that'll take me a long time to get over.
I see the more you talk about it, the more I start to lean towards your side. But like I said, from where you started, from the court of public opinion, most people had this team picking in the top 5. And here you are bowing out in Detroit just barely to a team that might make the Super Bowl. So yeah, it's a hell of a year. It's a great year. But the more we talk about it, okay, I see how
I'm going to change mine to salty.
Yeah, you see?
Okay, so that's
right. Because in all honesty, I can see myself rooting against like Detroit, even though it's a great story, but it's like the Rams like should have beat you.
Yeah.
Right? Or rooting against the Niners in that situation. Or I just hope everyone loses, because in a year where there was so much the Rams were in limbo. No one knew what they were going to be. Everyone was saying they're going to be terrible. That you turned the tide, and you made a run at this thing, and you were literally like 2 plays away from having the ability to host the NFC Championship game after you were out of the playoffs last year. To me, it was just, I'm salty about it, and I think it's okay to be salty.
We're taking a lot for granted there, including that you could have gone to Tampa and beaten Baker Mayfield and the Bucs, but that's fine. By the way, to all the Lions fans who have become fans of this show, it's nice to have you back. Thanks for hanging around and filling up our comment section.
Yeah.
But since we're on the salty sentiment, let's put our feet up on the therapist couch and let's get it all out here.
Oh.
What do you need to get off your chest to move on from that loss to end the season? Anything?
As much as I wanted the Rams to run the ball, I felt like against Detroit, you didn't have to run the ball. I felt like you could have play action pass and did all that you wanted to do without going. I think some of those run plays where you would go on first down, you'd get a yard or minus yards, kind of put you in a bind. And I think that's, as much as I've yelled and screamed from the mountaintops to run the ball and do all this, that was the one game I wish Sean would have just not listened and threw the ball all over the yard.
Wow. Player perspective, I'm sure you've had things shouted at you before, right? I think I've had a team throw a dead dog on us in college. So I've heard a lot.
Pullman?
In Pullman. I've heard a lot, and I've seen a lot and been through a lot, but Detroit was next level as far as their support for their football team. So I'll just say this. I will never root against Detroit, but I don't think I have to root for you, especially from what just happened there. And I can't root for the Niners because this right here, it is what it is. So maybe I'll say this, get off my chest. I wish the Rams would have run the ball a little bit more in the red zone. I think that might have changed the football game there, but it is what it was. You got to give Detroit a whole lot of credit. And maybe at the end of the game there, I may go for it with Stafford. Was it 4th and 14?
3rd and 14.
3rd and 14,
So do you treat that as the 2-play sequence like Sean McVay has kind of alluded to in retrospect? Or
when we're doing the game and listening to you guys talk, I could have swore that was going to be the plan. So I was just as surprised as everyone else.
And yet it was there.
It was there. You had your ops. So it is what it is. Give Detroit a whole lot of credit, but that is one that got away, and it happened to be in the postseason.
Again, I'm talking to myself. I'm coaching myself through this, but I am thankful that it didn't end on a missed kick. Even if fear of missing a kick is kind of what puts you in that predicament. When I see 3 of last weekend's 4 games featuring a brutally costly missed field goal, I'm glad that at least Rams-Lions was decided kind of in the run of play and not on the laces of a kicker. And I'm thankful it didn't end on a turnover.
Yeah.
Both Jared and Matthew played a great game. Both protected the football. Jordan Love's horrific interception comes to mind, and even Baker Mayfield turned one over at the end of that game yesterday. So I'm glad that if it did had to end, it ended on a on a performative note. Does that make sense?
Correct. Yeah, I'm with you.
You're not going in the offseason just ruining that critical back-breaking mistake that could have led you in a different direction.
I totally understand. Yeah, there's nothing worse than ending a game on a turnover. It just rips your guts right out of you. It really does, and you never heal from it.
And to circle back to where MJD started, it was house money. We said as much going to Detroit, and I'm thankful for not just Tyler Higbee and those who put their bodies on the line. That's probably something that I don't say enough because you guys have done it, but the physical toll that a season takes and what they sacrifice to make those moments possible. And we'll talk about some of our favorite moments on this show. I'm very appreciative, especially to those, and Tyler's not one of these, those Rams who have played their last game. And there's churn at the end of every season, and we don't know who those names are going to be yet. But inevitably, we've seen some Rams that we really come to know and love play for the last time in Royal and Soul, and that hurts.
No doubt. There's going to be 25, 30 new guys every single year. I mean, there were 14 draft picks that made this football team this season, so there's going to be changeover. But like you said, you hang on to the ones you can, and you get to know the new ones that come in. That's one more thing about a low shot on a receiver not looking. It bothers me.
I knew you weren't done
and
with that.
I get it. It's player safety, and if you hit them up high, you get banged and you get fined. But the last thing you want to do is injure a guy like that on a shot like that. Yeah. And you know better. You know absolutely better. You knew exactly what you were doing. So I don't want to hear this stuff about see what you hit. That's all crud, and you know it.
We talked about this, DeMarco, and I don't know if this is the place to do it, but I am thankful for Matthew Stafford in that situation.
Stafford. Yes.
Because if I was on the team, I would have got kicked out. Because it is unnecessary.
And you're talking about the mic'd up when you can hear how he rallied to Tyler's defense?
Yeah, he
told him straight out that was dirty.
That was you're dirty for that. And that
reminded me
is
of the Super Bowl when he came to Cup's back.
And that's what and again, that's where I remember when Matthew Stafford got drafted, we were playing at the same time, and that's kind of how that the league used to be, is you go out there and you protect that's your boy. That's your brother. You protect him in any way, shape you can, form you can. And obviously, that hit, I've been hit like that. Luckily, my cleats were out of the ground, right? And so you don't get that type of injury. But, in a play where you could have hit him in his chest or in his ribs, you took out his legs. And that's always a thing that you don't want to see, because, again, we were just talking about in the car on the way here, he has a whole offseason to try to get back right. He probably won't be right until September, October with that type of injury that he had.
Maybe, right. I've hit guys like that, and I've tried to do it on purpose. So I don't want to hear about see what you hit. There, it's done. Yeah.
Well, it's not just some players that are going to have to be replaced, but as we get to kind of the news and notes since we last gathered, it's going to be some coaches too, which is another inevitability in the National Football League, especially when you win 10 games. We'll see if Raheem Morris is able to lock down one of these head coaching opportunities. He's certainly getting the interviews that we all think he deserves. But let's start with Eric Henderson, who we really enjoy getting to know and appreciate for all the work, the dog work he's done on the defensive front, taking an opportunity in town with USC.
I'd never done this before, but I've never said this out loud. I'm sure you've never said this. I'm happy for USC. I really am. When's the last time you've ever thought that or said that, Maurice? Never. Look, he's giving me the blank stare.
No, not the blank stare. That's the viral.
Who said that I was happy for USC?
No, I said I've never said that. I'm sure
I'll never say that because they took our DC and UCLA too. Bob, why am I happy?
SC, you got yourself a winner in dog work, and Eric Henderson. He is absolutely tremendous. So if any player, if any parent has a kid, either side of the football, and you want that kid to get better and develop, you go to SC right now. Absolutely. You sign with that kid right now. You sign with Eric Henderson. He will make you absolutely better. Not just outside of Aaron Donald. Think of all the guys that have come through. Think of guys like Jonah Williams, who he took from clay and made him into a player. He turned Kobe Turner into a playmaker, not just a defensive tackle that can start, into a playmaker in the National Football League that you had to worry about on game day with AD standing right there.
Got the best out of Greg Gaines. Sean Robinson, another contract.
Amazing. And I told this to Eric Henderson right to his face when we were talking about Kobe Turner. I said, man, what a year he's having. And he was telling me how hard Kobe Turner works in practice. And I stopped him. It's not like he has a choice, coach. And he laughed because he's right. I mean, this dude will coach through whatever circumstance to get the best out of you. So like I said, happy for SC. I have never said that in my entire life, but they are going to be good because of him.
It brings me back to my New Year's resolution.
I was thinking the same thing.
I told you, stay the same. But right now, this is what happens when you're successful. People take the best of you, right? And I think Henderson was the best of this defense, right? The amount of guys that played and the way they move things around. You talked about molding guys, and first, I'm happy he gets paid. I'm happy he has the co-DC there, elevated in title. I dislike that he's at USC, but that's neither here nor there.
You almost caught the Chris Rose side.
I know, almost.
But at the same time, this is what I was always worried about.
Yeah.
When you're successful, to be honest, there's only really, I would say, 2 teams that deal with this on a yearly basis. The Niners, defensively, their DCs always leave.
Poaching
and
talent.
They poach their coaches, and then here. And it sucks because when you look at Kansas City's success, when they've always been successful, they've had the same DC, the same OC, the same special teams coach, right? Consistency in the coaching, hearing the same message day after day, year after year, week after week, month, right? You're hearing the same message. But for whatever reason, here in Los Angeles, it's always a different voice telling you the same message, and that it kind of, you can get lost in translation. So wish him the best, but I hate it for the Rams because now you have to go out and possibly find a new DC, a new D-line coach, possibly some new offensive coaches.
I was going to say, what if it gets worse? Because Gerard Mayo not only took Sean's mantle as the youngest coach in the National Football League, he might be rating his offensive staff next.
Yeah, and then not only that, the Saints they're interviewing. You get a lot of guys getting interviewed offensively, and so I mean, Shane Waldron just got the OC job. Don't be surprised if he starts pulling people. So to me, that's when. That's always been a like a nightmare. I told you I've had dreams. As nightmares of mine. Are you walk in and like Yarbs isn't here anymore.
Right.
It's like what?
That's
like
weird.
Like what? Are you kidding me? Right? Like it's just like
you dream about.
Yeah, I did. I actually had a dream about that. And
was that in the 10 hours when you were?
It was probably was in the 10 hours on the way back to Detroit when everyone was freezing and I was just sitting there out. But again, it's one of those things where like
Yard went past him for a snack and just found his way into Eddie's dream.
I heard his voice, but it's the consistency is what you want as a player, right? I want to hear the same voice. I want to hear the same thing. As a player, I had 5 different running back coaches in the NFL in my career.
Make you schizophrenic.
Yeah, because it's different messages over and over again. So
weird.
That's always been the thing. But, Sean and his staff, they do a great job of finding a way to get back.
Of all the coaches he's lost, this might be the toughest to replace when you think of Eric Henderson and what he brings. And guys you've had to turn over at certain positions. I don't think you'll be able to replace him and his impact on this football team and what it means. It's incredible.
He's so unique, and so is the culture that he created. And I can only hope that the culture he established outlasts his tenure here, which is now unfortunately over.
Woo, big shoes, no doubt.
And in terms of replacing him, you need to see what happens with Raheem Morris, right? Because if you do have to change your defensive coordinator, that individual deserves the right to kind of build out his staff.
I'd be shocked if Raheem Morris didn't get a job.
I was just about to ask, can we take Seattle off the table? Like, I want him to get a job. I just don't want him to get the Seattle job. Everything else I'd be fine with.
But it's kind of perfect for him up there, don't you think? I know. It stinks when you think about it.
That might be the only one I can't be happy about.
We said this. When were we talking about this? In San Francisco. Like, at some point, we were talking about how well McVay and Raheem Morris work together. And at some point, they're going to be standing opposite each other. And that could be as early as 2024. And it could be twice a year. Yeah.
You guys love Nine and Dime, kind of Matthew
and
Coop show.
Yeah.
The only thing that I might imagine would be better is a Sean and Raheem show.
Oh,
like,
man.
that would be must-see television.
That's too much swag. Yeah, you couldn't handle it. Yeah, you couldn't handle that. Yeah.
All right, more to come. Should we get into some year-end awards?
Yeah,
we ready to give out some prizes?
Yeah.
As we kind of gradually turn our attention towards 2024?
Yeah, unfair sleeping award.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought Rookie of the Year on offense and defense were so obvious that we might just kind of breeze through those.
Byron Young. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
But where I was going with that is actually the runner-up was also obvious. Like Steve Avila on offense and Byron Young on defense, right?
No doubt.
But, I mean, there's a reason why the top two might get NFL Rookie of the Year honors.
You're talking about Puka, obviously. Yeah.
Puka's not going to get it. He's not going to get it, but he definitely deserves it. It's hard to get it when the kid from Houston goes to the divisional round, right? It's just tough to do.
It's not like Puka's coming up empty. He's going to the Pro Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he's second team All-Pro.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I mean, he's been decorated. He's been honored for his years. So if you want to kind of split the baby and give Rookie of the Year to the quarterback, which is what they do anyway, makes sense.
It's just amazing that from week one, when Cooper Kupp's out and you know he's going to get that opportunity. Now, not that level of targets and opportunity, but you knew he might be in for a big start. To his very last game in the regular season, setting the NFL record at San Francisco, to raising the bar even higher in his first postseason game at Detroit. I mean, that's as wire to wire as it gets for an award.
I mean, it's fantastic. He's a fantastic player, run and pass. You love his intensity, right? But I think what makes the story even greater is where he was drafted. So it seems like it's a shock. But then when you talk to McVay or you talk to Les Snead, he's been doing that for years. What you saw is what he's always been. So it's more so that the other teams just missed on him or didn't believe in his talent, and the Rams did, and here he is performing for you.
Well, I think there was a lot of things. We talked about this. He had injury issues in college. He didn't really run fast. But there's one moment stands out to me that it's hard to – it kind of embodies everything about Puka Nacua was when he hurt his shoulder. I forget what game it was. And then he goes out for like a quarter.
SoFi.
He goes out for like a quarter and he comes back.
Lazarus.
Like, what is going on? Like, I thought you like broke every rib or what, and he ends up having this. He had to separate his shoulder. And then you go back a couple weeks later, Jamar Chase has it and misses like 3 weeks, right? And so this is toughness, right? Like, to me, going over the middle, catching the ball, blocking, all the other things. Like, yeah, the highlights are awesome, but creating space in the running game, catching the tough passes over the middle, getting hit. Like the play at Baltimore with no gloves on, diving in front of 3 Baltimore Ravens and Cooper Kupp there to make the play. Like that embodies what you want, kind of what the Rams like always wanted out of the receivers, and he really took that and made a good run with it.
See, another thing I want to get off my chest. Yeah, that was PI at the end. You grabbed his jersey.
My God.
I'm just saying. See, it's all coming up
Way
again.
to bury that 20 minutes into the show. So it doesn't ring off the top.
Yep,
and I know you got more thoughts on Kobe. I've seen a sneak preview of your award, so I'll give you that chance in just a little bit. By the way, I've got a column coming up with all of my picks on these, but let's get to most improved, because I think this is probably where we'll get the most diversity of opinion. There are a lot of really good choices here. Who wants to lead off for the most improved Ram of 2023?
You know, I told you this in the car. To me, it's Bobby Brown.
Big Bob.
I think, and I said this, and I truly believe this. I thought Jonah Williams did an awesome job, but I feel like if you had a Michael Brockers in that 5 technique role, a bigger body similar to Bobby Brown, that you'd be able to stop the run a little bit better than what you were doing in that wild card playoff game. But Bobby Brown controlling guard to guard, right? When he came back, that defensive line took a huge jump because he was able to stop the run. He was able to really put that center in a bind where he had to have help. Once you have to help that center, it opens up everyone else. And so in the running game. And so I thought he improved a ton from it. This is who they thought he would be when they drafted him. And, obviously you want to keep going from there. But to me, Bobby Brown was the guy.
Man, I call him Eclipse. He blocks a lot of sun. He really does. He's huge. And the first guy I thought about when I heard that Eric Henderson took the SC job was Bobby, because I think Bobby is on the verge of becoming something special. And he was on that trajectory. So I hope he gets the coaching he needs. But as far as most improved, I mean, it was an easy one for me. It's on the defensive side. It's actually Jordan Fuller. I mean, think about his year, the year before. I think 11 tackles, missed almost the entire season, right? Then he comes back and he takes almost every snap in the regular season. I mean, I think he missed 25 plays total. Misses the playoff game.
So you're going almost like a comeback player of the year type of most improved.
But goes from here to second on the team in tackles and didn't miss a rep. I mean, that to me is exemplary. And some of his tackles were game savers. We just don't talk about him as much, because usually when guys like him, when safeties make tackles, something bad just happened because the ball broke to him. Mm-hmm. Without those guys, dropping those guys in the open field, that's a runaway touchdown or a big play waiting to happen. So I thought the safety play was outstanding at times, but I thought he was great. He was the most improved.
And oh, by the way, we need you to start next to Russ Yeast. Oh, wait, it's going to be a little bit of Quentin Lake. John Johnson's here. Can you work with him? He did it all. And
you got Green Dot. Nope, he's got Green Dot.
Right.
You're back to Green Dot again.
And a little bit like Tyler, I hate for him that once again he was unable to be a part of the postseason because he was so instrumental in terms of earning that opportunity, just as he was in 21 in that Super Bowl season. My most improved is Tutu Atwell. And I like that his season wasn't linear. We all knew he was going to be better this year, right? I think we said during the summer, he's going to blow past his career totals this season alone. And he did. But then he had to step aside to make some room for Demarcus Robinson. He got knocked out of that game at Baltimore. And you're wondering, okay, have we seen the last of Tutu Atwell in 2023? Far from it. in that game against San Francisco, he picks up a gotta have it 3rd down, I got to have it 4th down conversion, I got to have it 2-point conversion. He pulls that one out of the fire. And then that touchdown in Detroit, I was already leaning this way, but I see that and I'm thinking, might Tutu Atwell be worth approaching with a modest contract extension this offseason because his skill set is really unique within your offensive system. Would be hard to replace.
His touchdown, he fought through a hold and then fought through the catch and then made his way to the end zone. So you may look at him and think this guy is slight, but I mean, he is bigger and stronger than you think, and he's getting nothing but better. So, yeah, I think a lot of that toughness out of the receiving core, doesn't that come from your quarterback? Because of what your quarterback is doing, that it just makes guys want to be that much tougher. That's what I saw with Puka. Some of those shots when he got hit, I mean, the fact that he's getting up is because Stafford keeps getting up. The fact that Tutu's fighting through all this stuff is because Stafford is feeding him the football. So, yeah, I mean, I thought Tutu had a fantastic season. I wish we could have seen more out of him. And if you keep playing, there's a good chance that you would have saw more out of Tutu Atwell this season. But he's been great.
Let's stay on offense. Who's your offensive player of the year?
Oh, man, that's a hard one. Okay, you know me. I love the butt and gut guys. I got to go with Kevin Dotson. As soon as you put him into the offensive line, everything changed. And I know you can say it's Kyron. He's the running back right here. And they do tote the rock.
He probably will.
Fantastic. But without the guys up front opening holes, you've got nothing. And as soon as he came in, you changed the way the O-line looked. You changed the way you blocked, and you started having success. So for me, offense, Kevin Dotson.
I mean, you know, I love big men that like to block. That's just one of the things I tend to gravitate towards. But I will say Kyron, because I think not only in the running game, which is the easiest thing to watch, but in the passing game, in the protection, and the ability to set the pocket when you're getting blitzes, he did an awesome job with that. Catching the ball out of the backfield, he did a great job with the screen game. It kind of takes me back to the Arizona game at Arizona where he just like went off, right? And then when he wasn't there was a big difference, right? As much as you talked about Kevin Dotson, when Kyron wasn't there, the running game wasn't as efficient. It wasn't as explosive. The passing game and the protection wasn't as secure as it was. Stafford had to move a little bit more. And to me, those are signs of a player that you need when he broke his hand.
Yeah.
What happened in the Detroit game, right? Things changed up. And so to me, that tells you how valuable he was to this offense. And again, like I said before, he has a lot of tools. The one tool he doesn't have is like breakaway speed, but he's able to make up that with his smarts, his ability to pick up the blitz, his ability to block, and then the way he's able to manipulate linebackers in the running game.
I'm with you. I went with Kyron, in part because we're saving the quarterback for a different conversation. We'll get there momentarily. But if you had told any of us this offseason that we would be talking about Kyron Williams in the context of Marshall and Eric, or that we would be talking about Puka Nacua in the context of Isaac and Torrey and Cooper, I mean, we all would have signed that contract before the ink was dry.
Check, please. Yeah.
But here in January, that's exactly where both of those two men, one was a rookie, one's like a redshirt freshman, put this organization. And I think that's why we're all so bullish on 2024.
No doubt. Didn't Royce Freeman have a 70 burger without Kyron, though? I'm just saying, give it to the button gut guys up front. Come on. See,
70,
running back.
70 burger what?
I almost said
like a 70.
I almost said that was against the Cardinals.
Who cares?
A 70-yarder?
They're a 70 yard.
Not a game, not carry.
17 for 70 or something like that.
Yeah, Kyron led the league in rushing yards per game and missed 4 of them. It was like third in rushing, 5.
Amazing.
Like, come on.
Week 18, too.
Yeah, come on, bro. I know. I get. They did a great job.
A lot of times in this exercise, defensive player of the year, we have to say aside from Aaron Donald. But this year, I'm fine giving it to Aaron Donald. Anyone?
No, hands down. Yeah, I would love it. Ernest Jones would come to mind. And this is why he didn't, from when my most improved, because I think he improved by 20 tackles from a year ago. So he was on that same path.
Set the franchise record.
He has been tremendous, and I thought he is. Raheem Morris unleashed his pass rush ability, sending him on blitzes against these running backs. So I thought he was fantastic. But it just don't go without Aaron. So he's your MVP.
It's cool to live in an era, I think, here in Aaron's career where he can not finish as his team's sack leader and still be a first-team All-Pro. And we can still give him the flowers that he deserves,
Did we not
right?
watch him get triple teamed every week? Like, I don't like when a team says, okay, we're not going to double team him. We're going to put 3 offensive linemen on him at all times. I mean, that was Detroit. You talked about it in the pregame.
Guard, tackle, center's always watching.
Like, how do you expect this man to put up numbers, right? Like, to me, that it makes sense how the defense is ran now. Like, when I first got here, I was like, yeah, I played against Aaron. I thought he was awesome. But the respect that he's gathered because he could beat double teams. He could beat, obviously, one-on-one and chips and things like that. That you have to put 300-pounders to stop him is insanity to me. Like, there's no other player in this game that gets that.
Not like that, no.
No
6
one.
guys and 900 pounds.
That can line up everywhere. That's the thing. That's the thing that separates him from everyone else, save for J.J. Watt. He could line up anywhere. He can line up at right end, left tackle, inside, outside, anywhere, and still get to you.
DeMarco, I played against J.J. Watt, and we never put 300 pounds.
No. I mean, but that's how you do it, and how the Rams had to do it this year with Aaron, because they would find out where he is and adjust protection to him. So he had to wait until the very last second just to line up. So you couldn't key on him. I mean, think of how hard that is. You're standing dead over the center, and you got to sprint to the guard to line up just so they can.
There were times where I didn't think Aaron was in there. I'd be like, "Oh, Aaron's not part of this front." I was like, "Oh, wait, he is. He's just hanging out back there with
just
Ernest waiting to
he's
pick his
hiding.
spot."
Yeah, it's crazy. I know, tremendous.
All right, MVP. Is this unanimous?
Yeah, I hope so.
Matthew,
it's got to be. Who else would it be?
No, I mean, I think we've talked about everybody, but I think Matthew Stafford, to do what he's done with rookies, Kyron's a rookie, right? He really didn't play as much. I mean, some of the throws he made, the one play that he solidified his MVP to me was against Cleveland, where he checked the ball and he threw it to Puka Nacua up the seam.
Right over the guy's head.
Yeah. Like, those throws were made week after week after week. We talked about Baltimore going toe-to-toe with Baltimore, throwing the ball all over the yard, tearing them up. Like, I was terrified going into that Baltimore game because I'd seen them knock out quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. Mm-hmm. And he's just standing in the pocket just throwing darts all over the place. Like, to me, it was like, I think Wink Martindale said it best. He was playing at an MVP level and had been playing for a while at that point. And that's what you want.
170 throws without a pick. I think that stretch in December goes down as one of the best of his career.
And it wasn't check down Charlie either.
No.
Yeah.
I think he, to your point, recaptured the imagination of the football world, right? Who had always admired and appreciated him, but saw him do it in a way that maybe he had not even during his Super Bowl season when he was electric, right? Like, when the confetti's falling at SoFi Stadium and they're having the parade, I remember the drumbeat of, is Matthew Stafford a Hall of Fame quarterback? It began in earnest, right? You could, at least now that he had won a playoff game and not just done that, but won a ring, you could say, all right, now let's have that conversation. I feel like what he did this fall now puts him in the more likely than not to wind up with the gold jacket. And I also think it extends his runway, right? Because he was even asked at the podium in Detroit, like, are you back next year? And with a twinkle in his eye, the answer was yes. You're going to have to do with me for another year and maybe more.
Well, he's going to have to talk to the family first. But yes, I'm right there with you. Even more so than the passes, and the passes were sweet. I mean, as much as you give Aaron credit, and I said this before about Aaron, why teams keep trying to pull guards in front of Aaron is ridiculous, right? He's going to see it, smoke it, be in the backfield before you know it. Same thing with Stafford. When he starts to pick you apart and you start to bring pressure and he knows it and he gets the ball out and beyond, that stuff is impressive. But what's more impressive is when the play is bad and he gets absolutely tagged, blasted. And most quarterbacks would be done. Or my hand hurts. I can't go out and play, get the backup ready. Rolls over, dusts himself off. I'm going right back to the field because I've got men to lead. I've got, touchdowns to throw. His toughness, his leadership, it far outpaces what he does on the field.
The season was over in Dallas. It was over. We were flying home saying, pack it in, here comes the trade deadline. He's going to get surgery and who knows what comes next. Except he didn't. And then the season was over on the other side of the bye, too, when he gets cut in half by Seattle.
Kaboom.
And goes into dark mode and gets that victory, and the whole thing flips.
Well,
I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but that hit in Detroit, man, come on, dude.
But that wasn't That's what I was going to talk about. That hit in Detroit, and then you come back and you make the throw to DeMarcus Robinson on like third and 15, where you slide to the pocket, you slide left, and you flip it out right, and DeMarcus is able to catch the ball. Like, I always tell quarterbacks, you only can show your toughness. So, like, as a running back, I can show you my toughness by running through guys and D linemen, this and that. A quarterback is being available. That's how you show your toughness. Getting just demolished over and over again, and then staying in the pocket, not being afraid to step into throws, not like double clutching, not clinching, just firing the ball off. And he's done that all year.
If I blast you in the pocket and you don't even give me an ouch, it's demoralizing. You don't even give me an ouch. Like, man, I know that hurt, right? Nah, I'm all right. I'm good. That's demoralizing. You know what I mean? Time and time again. He's just been that guy for his team.
I'll give him credit to the work that he put in this offseason. He was more nimble on and off platform than I think he was in his first 2 years in Los Angeles, which is, as he's aging, a real testament to what he did, and hopefully he can run it back again in 24.
MVP, easy.
All right, favorite moment of the season? Why don't we land there?
Wow.
In a 10-win playoff campaign, did anything rise above the rest for you?
That Cleveland game.
I knew you were getting back to
that Cleveland game. It was because of what happened at the bye, and how, like, you were 3-6 at the bye, and then you're climbing. So this is your third or fourth win in a row. But then Kobe Turner gets a sack, and then Aaron Donald shoves Flacco out of the back of the end zone, and then they walk off skipping to the sideline. Never forget that. I mean, these are like big gladiator men, but then they're just kids on the inside skipping, having a great time playing a game. You know what I mean?
I hear you, man.
So much fun. So this season was dead, and then it became the most fun thing in LA right then. Yeah.
The season in a GIF was that.
It was awesome.
I cannot argue with that.
No
that
doubt.
was my runner-up, but I'm glad you said
that. What did you say in the broadcast? Aaron Donald is inevitable. I want that on a T-shirt. That's
is
awesome.
That one?
Yes. Yeah. Aaron Donald is inevitable. I want that on a T-shirt. That's awesome. Yeah.
To me, this is not going to be like a happy moment.
What?
But it was Green Bay. Seeing Brett Rippon play in Green Bay, because I feel like that is what changed everything. I felt like the Rams knew they could win that one. And the play of him has you go and sign Carson Wentz, right? It allows Stafford to kind of, I feel like that puts something in Stafford a little bit. And it all changed from that point. It was you hit rock bottom. And we know how rock bottom can be. Either you can stay down there or you can try to climb your way out of it. And to me, that was one of my favorite moments. One, because we were freezing up there, right? It was like bad for all of us in that situation. It was like, can't hold on to the football, can't do all this. And I'm sitting here looking at you like, yo, like, I don't know if I could call this. It's cold, right? It's raining. It was all. In that moment, the Rams made a decision. And that decision was to come back and fight. And that after that, Seattle, you went on this run. And so to me, it wasn't like the happiest moment, but it was the turning point of the season. That I truly believe that play where he snapped the ball, fumbled, tried to pick it up and throw it and fumbled again, that was a turning point in the season. It's
like Jack Handy level deep thoughts there from Maurice Jones-Drew.
That was.
I don't want to go after that.
I'm sorry. That's why I was.
Never thought I'd think about that game ever. I do think about that game because when I saw Green Bay this weekend, I'm like, I cannot believe that team is in the divisional round.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, and really, we talked. I remember specifically saying like before that week, like Stafford this is the game you have to win, because I felt like they were going to be a team. One, you have to get over your hump. I know we always talk about the Niners being like the kryptonite, but it's really Green Bay where the Rams have struggled more than anything, right?
Can I suggest that you make an amendment to your 2024 New Year's resolution for the Rams? Okay, because your 23 one's like crumbling, right?
It is.
It's not going to hold up.
It's terrible.
So let me suggest something to you. Next season, instead of the Rams being the Packers get right game, the Rams are the Packers like stumbling block, tear it down game.
Yeah, I love that.
The Rams are just the season record for the Packers. Because when you talk about going to Lambeau, too many years in a row, it's been like this triumphant, the Packers could not score a touchdown when we got to Lambeau Field. And then from that point forward, Jordan Love is now going to get a contract extension.
About to get broke off because of that. Like, he's about to get all the money.
Wow.
Right?
Mine's just a favorite moment to wrap things up. Puka in overtime at Indianapolis.
Oh, that was awesome.
And a gotta-have-it game. For all the records he'd set, as fast as that start was, the young man did not have an NFL touchdown until they squandered, that 23-point lead? And then he walks it off on a 22-yard touchdown, flings the football into the stands, and kudos to our awesome social media team for tracking that ball down and getting it back in his trophy case.
Awesome.
But he had already arrived. His legacy grew that day. And little did we know how much more of it was still to come, but a walk-off overtime win.
What was the route? I don't remember.
He ran a post curl. Sat down right there in the dead area. Remember they ran off with the post.
Yes,
and they let him go.
Was get the Colts to fall asleep on defense.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Okay, that was a very dark moment. But let me say this: anytime you can get your mother on the sidelines of an NFL game, and you can hug her. No, not Kyron, Puka.
Oh, you're talking about San Francisco.
Oh my God! Like that to me was like, oh yeah, you've arrived, because I couldn't even get my mom down there.
Couldn't get her down there.
And we were balling in Jacksonville. We couldn't even get her.
That was my second memory. Kyron Williams' mom taking the ball.
From the guy.
Oh yeah, that was my second favorite memory.
That happened twice.
Jersey.
Yeah, ripped it right out of his hands. That's how you get it.
She did it in L.A. too. A guy tried to steal in L.A. She took it there too.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to all the moms.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Shout out
of the 2023 Los Angeles Rams. You want to make any conference championship game predictions before we go?
Nah, man.
I hope they all lose.
Is that possible?
Ties.
Yeah.
Tie it up. Just keep playing until the Super Bowl week. Play 2 weeks in a row.
Listen, San Francisco has to go through Jared Goff, homecoming game for Jared. And then any way you slice it, if they do get to Vegas, they're going to be facing a 2-time MVP at quarterback, assuming Lamar gets this year, right?
Right.
Well, I will say this. If you look at the games, Detroit and the Niners are built very similarly, right? If you look at how the difference is, the Detroit offensive line is way better than San Francisco's as a unit. The Niners have struggled stopping the run the last month of the season too, and we know what Detroit wants to do. So it gives you it gives Detroit they have a really, really good opportunity to go up to San Francisco and win that game. On the other hand, as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, man, like that is a juggernaut over there in Baltimore. Like if you can't get Lamar down, which for whatever reason, Houston had opportunities to get him down. They got him down a couple times, but in that second half, he turned it on. Like I don't know how
to stop him.
Yeah.
So the question was asked, who would I rather have, Mahomes or Lamar Jackson? I said historically, Mahomes. This year, Lamar, because he is playing out of his mind. And if you get him in a fourth quarter where it's just you or him versus your defense, he's going to win. He is absolutely going to fillet you and kill you with his legs and with his arms. So that side, I'm taking Baltimore. The other side, I hope there is no winner out of the NFC.
This is the other chip.
I hope that game plays for like 24 hours.
That's what I'm saying. This is the other chip on the shoulder for Lamar. If you look at how they talk about all the other quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Mahomes, this rivalry game, and yet we just forget about Lamar and what Lamar has done. And they haven't played each other since 2021. So that's going to be this is kind of his legacy game too. Like, do you go and knock off Mahomes?
He can't lose. Yeah.
You can't. You got to go knock off Mahomes.
Yep.
You have no choice.
There's nothing to help you from a coordinating standpoint when you're playing Lamar. You may be able to help with Mahomes, but I can't help you. You just have to get him on the ground.
It's not just beating Mahomes. You got to beat two Kelseys. One's wearing pads, one's wearing nothing at all.
Oh my God,
he's doing it right.
Hey,
yes, he is doing it right.
First of all, I just don't understand how men cannot have shirts on in the cold. To me, like you have the chance of getting very sick. I don't care how much you're drinking. But the other part is the love for his brother. To hop out of that suite and go put his lips on someone else's beer can and start chugging.
You dang right,
man. Get out of here. That is kudos to him,
brothers.
Goodbye, 2023.
Yes.
We will not speak of it again. In our next show, we will turn our attention to the Rams' 2024 offseason, which promises to be one for the ages. DeMarco Farr will tell us next week who the Rams are going to take at 19 overall. For MJD, for DeMarco Farr, I'm JB Long. Thank you for being with us for our final 2023 edition of Between the Horns, presented by your Southern California Toyota dealers.
You were kidding, right?
I am,
okay.
Yes.